Hey there, I'm Coach Pete Cafarcio, and this is Dynamic Destiny. Hey there, this is Coach Pete, and welcome to Dynamic Destiny. I'm so glad you tuned in today. I have a question for you. When we talk about the concept of destiny, do you think of it as fate, like an absolute path that you're bound to hit? Or is it more of a journey where you have control over the decisions that will affect the outcome? Well, we're going to touch on that today as we discuss the concept of your soul before you were born. But before we get to that, hey, this show was recorded in mid-January. So if you made some New Year's resolutions, if you're like most people, statistically, you will have already broken them. And I don't want you to get discouraged as your friend, as your coach here. I want you to stay encouraged. There is a better way to make improvements in your life than to make resolutions. Okay, so don't think resolutions. They rely too much on your willpower, and that's exhausting. Now you might think, oh, if I only had more willpower, I'd be able to follow through with these things. Hey, that's actually not true. Nobody can constantly exercise the will all the time, over and over and over again, and still maintain a balanced life. It's really exhausting. It leads to defeat and discouragement, and you'll think, "Oh, wow, I can't. Why can't I just press through? I don't have more willpower." Now, there is a place for developing habits. Habits are really powerful, and we're going to cover that in another episode. Okay, not today. So there is a place for it. I don't want to totally throw that out, but a much better approach to thinking about how you want to grow, how you want to improve your life, is think about how you want to grow this year. Okay, not fix things, but grow. Okay, and the best place for that is to start with a better understanding of your identity and your purpose. Your identity and your purpose. Why? Well, if you can get solid on those, if you can get clarity to know who you are and where you're going to do your best work and make the best impact, you're going to get better rewards for the efforts that you put in. This is an ongoing journey. It's a better way to think about things than just a specific change or a fix. It's like, hey, this is my whole life. I'm moving in this direction. It's more holistic. It's not binary, meaning I will fail at this or I will succeed at this. If you want greater understanding in your identity and purpose, it's growth, okay? And there's no like absolute finish line for pass fail. Now you can set some targets, and that would be helpful. And we're also going to talk later in this podcast about a way to get started doing that, to understand your identity and purpose better. Before we do that, though, we want to go to our quote for the day. Now, this particular one is a Bible verse, but I love it because it's so profound, and it is from Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. And this is Jeremiah was a prophet, and he wrote down words that God was speaking directly to him. And this is one of the phrases God said to him in Jeremiah's calling. And what God said to him is God said, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." I'm going to read that again. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Now, you might not be appointed as a prophet to the nations, but there are still a lot of implications in this verse for you. The first one implies that you're unique. Okay, you are different and separate, and you have a specific purpose for your life. It's assigned to you before you're even born. Before you're even born. Third, you're not an accident. Now, even if your pregnancy circumstances behind your birth were accidental, there's still intentionality built into you. In fact, throughout the Bible, there's tons of stories, many stories, I should say, of people that were conceived out of wedlock or whatever, and God still used them. God still had plans for them. So doesn't matter the circumstances, you still are included. God still loves you, and God still has a plan, a purpose for you. If you read the rest of Jeremiah's story, however, you're going to see that he still needed to make choices to follow his calling all along the way. So it wasn't this, God saying like, hey, I appointed you for this and you're automatically going to fulfill it. He needed to make a lot of, and some very tough sacrificial decisions along the way to obey the calling that was on his life. So it doesn't happen automatically, but the purpose, the intent is there. So how could you benefit if you knew what your calling was? How would that shape the decisions you make along the way? So going back to our initial question when I opened up the podcast, is it an assigned path or is it a journey where you have to make decisions? Well, it's kind of both, right? So maybe a better way to think of it is, instead of does God have a plan for my life, it's does God have a purpose for my life? And I say resoundingly, yes, he does have a purpose. It's partly written in the way he's gifted you. There's other things as well. And if you can get clarity on that, it can help you make better decisions and get more intentional about where you wanted to be headed, your destination. That's your destiny. Okay, well, hey, along this topic, a movie came out at the end of the year that I got so excited about. And I don't know if you've seen it. I highly, highly recommend it. It's a Disney Pixar film. It's a family film called Soul, brand new from them. Very brave of them to tackle this subject. And really, there's a lot of big existential themes in here. But one of the concepts here is that your soul is actually eternal. It existed before you were born, and it's going to exist after you die. And I love this because whenever I can see a dramatic representation of a truth that kind of helps it click and help you understand it. Some people need to see things. Sometimes people need to see things played out. When you can hear a story around it, it sinks in better. It teaches better. And that's why I really, really love this movie. There were a lot of great themes in it, and I'm about to go through some. So it's a spoiler alert. If you don't want to have any of this spoiled, like maybe fast forward through the podcast a little bit. But first theme, I mentioned you're an eternal soul in a mortal body. Okay, and what Pixar does is they show a different world where your soul exists, and then life on Earth. So it's really it's a good way that they handle it. You may have heard, like, after you die, some people talk about going to the great beyond, but they show people going off to a white light, that you might have heard from near death experiences. But they also talk about the great before, the great beyond, and the great before. I'm very interested in that. In fact, that's the theme for today's podcast is before you were born, the great before. And it shows these little souls, before they live their life on Earth, that they're pre-assigned personalities and talents and predilections and different qualities that they have. And they're running around like these little, kind of like little kids, and like, I'm a soul, and they get things assigned to them. And then there's this portal that they come up to. It's kind of a hole in their eternity land. Actually, they call it the Great Before. They also they said rebranding. They called it You Seminar, where you learn about who you are going to be. And then there's this portal, and they jump down the portal and they head down to Earth, and they go get incarnated into a body, and that body then lives its life. So it's a really neat idea. I love that representation. But the other thing you'll find in the movie, which I love, there are still a lot of choices in life. Okay, so not fixed according to this fate, like no control. There's still choices that need to be made, but that purpose, that wiring, is unique to each person. There's this one great scene where there's a barber that's telling his story, and he's saying he wanted to be a veterinarian when he was growing up, and but he had to pivot. Life circumstances came, and he had to change, and he had to pivot. but he still sees his talents coming through in what he does by helping one person at a time. I thought it was a wonderful, clarifying point of understanding that purpose and talent is there. It can express itself in different ways, and some of that is up to its life circumstance, and some of it it's your choice and your intentionality. Another concept that's in there is that these souls, before they, when they're in the U seminar, the waiting area, before they jump into a body, they know who they are, they know what's happening to them. But after they jump down, they can't remember it. They can't remember being there, and it implies that you need to rediscover here on Earth what your wiring, your assignment is. You're assigned your gifts and talents and things, and that is so true to life. And it's one of the reasons I became a coach, is to help people understand that. We do forget. It would be cool if we didn't have this memory erasure when we were born, but we have to discover what that is. And there's a lot of practical things you can do to help you understand it and to get clarity on it. And I just love discovering those tools, and I love passing them on to you. So stay tuned. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. A couple more bonuses about the film. Jazz. So it's a great jazz theme there. Another big bonus, New York City. They do a great job of representing the street life of New York. The animation is everything you'd expect from a Disney Pixar movie. It's different, beautiful, but really creative, especially the way they show eternity, the music they play, and they use a different animation style. It's just really, really ingenious. And just the music, the whole thing. Again, high quality film, lot to think about, lot to discuss, and things that we can embrace. Again, kudos to them. You won't, anyone who watches it isn't going to agree 100% with all aspects of it based on your religious beliefs, but it's pretty darn inclusive. And will let you attach your belief system to it, I think, in a way that's meaningful for you. So anyway, highly recommend it. Soul by Disney. It's playing on Disney Plus right now, $6.99 for a month. Just sign up just to watch that film if you want. It's cheaper than going to the theater. Okay, we're going to take this time now and go to a commercial about a new offering that we have. Hi there, Coach Pete here, and I'm so excited to tell you about a new course that we just released, Decoding Your Destiny. Over the past 20 years, I've worked with hundreds of people to curate the very best tools that will help you get more clarity on your life purpose and calling. The course uses 8 very easy to follow short videos and online fillable worksheets that help you record your answers and capture new insights. You're sure to get greater clarity on your life purpose and know specifically how you can make the best difference in the world. Go to petecoaching.com and look for online courses. I can't wait for you to get greater clarity and understanding for your destiny. Okay, so there's the offering, Decoding Your Destiny. It's a new course that we just produced and made it available. It's a great starting place for understanding your destiny. Understand who you are, how you're wired, all these different aspects that have affected you and put you in a position to do your best work on Earth. How are you going to make the best kind of impact to those around you and to the world in general? How do you filter things? How do you process things? What's your viewpoint? What's your perspective? That's a great starting place. Now, you're still going to have to make plans from that, and that'll be probably future courses, or you could talk to a coach. But getting clarity on that starting place is super, super helpful. So that's why I created it. I have a heart to help people see and understand their own uniqueness. And, I've done this for so many people. I mean, my wife and I were counting up. I've really done this for probably over 200 people. And over time, over decades, really, I've found some of the best tools that work and which ones don't work. So I've kind of curated those, put them all together in a course. And, instead of saying, how can I talk to every person individually? It's like, hey, why not make these available so people can work on it themselves? Some of these tools are very easy, self-paced kind of exercises. So I curated them all, put them all into a package. It's an easy to follow format. It's got videos that go with it. But the idea is for you to do that work yourself. And then when you're ready to start making those plans, you're going to be able to do it with much more efficiency and much more clarity. The course has 3 different options. You can take it on your own, self-paced. It's really designed for that. But hey, you could do it with a group. So joining in with a cohort and sharing your results and helping each other and giving feedback to each other, that's great too. And then the third option is you can enlist me, Pete, Coach Pete, as a one-on-one coach to help you through each section and then quickly turn those into action plans and kind of a course map for how you're going to keep living out the rest of your life. Anyway, check it out, Decoding Your Destiny. Hey, to summarize, your soul is eternal. Okay, it existed before you were born. It's going to exist after you die. Okay, and there's a specific purpose and design inside of you. Again, before you were even born. And if you can get in touch with that and really understand it, it's going to help you do better work on earth. The implication there, though, is also that to make the most of your short time on earth, that there's, hey, if I'm not just a random accident, if I was designed a certain way for a certain purpose, I need to fulfill that purpose. Okay, that's where true fulfillment comes from. And that there's kind of like a responsibility on me to figure that out and to go make the best of what's been given to me. You may have heard it said that who you are and your talents is God's gift to you. And what you do with those talents is your gift to God. It's also your gift to the rest of the world too, because you find true fulfillment in serving other people and helping them based on what you've been given. All right, well, that is our episode for today. I want to leave you again with the quote for the day, which is, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as a prophet to the nations. So this is Coach Pete reminding you that you really are God's gift to the world. We need you to be the best version of you that you can be. Bye-bye. Thank you, my friend, for joining me on this episode of Dynamic Destiny. As a reminder, you can get more free tools and downloads at petecoaching.com. Let's continue the discussion. Write to me with your questions and feedback. Ask Pete at petecoaching.com. Be sure to tell your friends, and please leave a 5-star podcast review. I can't wait to have you join me next time on Dynamic Destiny.